Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to be taking a look at a rogue deck from the 2008 format that I came up with. And this is a rogue deck that I'm actually really proud of. Now, full disclaimer, the deck, I'm going to say the deck is mine, but I did take some inspiration on the list. Essentially, I had came up with the deck, and I was the first person that I saw playing it. And then a couple of weeks after I started playing it, on TCG1, Nino also started playing the deck, and as much as it kind of hurts my pride to say it, he made a lot of really good deck choices with the deck that I didn't have in the original build, and I actually really liked a lot of his choices that I came and started incorporating into my original list. So while the deck is, I'm going to say mine, the concept is mine. I'm not going to say a lot. Some of the card choices I definitely took inspiration from him on. I didn't have Claydol in the original list. I didn't have Rotom in the original list. And those were two big things that I think are pretty big. I will say that I put the stadiums in, and the Windstorm and the Patchy, which I all think are really good in this current meta. But let's go ahead and just jump into the deck and the list here. And essentially, it's going to be a Magmortar Bronzong deck. And in general, Magmortar is just really good. 110 hit points on a stage 1 is super strong. That heal, you basically get a potion every time you attach a fire energy to it. And that's any fire energy. That's a basic fire energy card. That's a double rainbow energy. That's an active scramble energy. You get that heal 20. And essentially, you'd think Flame Blast is the main attack, but the main attack of the deck is actually Fireball Bazooka. You want to do that 40 damage and then spread 20 to 2 of your opponent's bench. So essentially, for 3 energy, you're doing a total of 80 damage, and you get to spread that out. Flame Blast just acts as a really good, I want to say deterrent attack, where essentially if you have 3 fire energies on that Magmortar, your opponent knows that you're threatening at least 60 damage, 80 damage if you attach another fire energy, or if you have an active scramble energy, you can be threatening as much as 120 damage. And that really affects how they have to play certain matchups in certain situations. Now, but a majority of the time, all you're going to be doing is you're just going to be sitting there going Fireball Bazooka 40, 20, 20. Now, to help the Magmortar out, you play the Level X, and the Level X is also spectacular. That Torrid Wave, automatically making them burned. You gain 20 hit points, still keep that awesome potion body, and then if they flip tails on burn, they take 3 damage counters instead of 2, so it's like a super burn. And then that Flame Bluster, it does, you discard 2 fire energies, you do 100 damage to anything. And there's really not a whole lot of great strong bench hitters in the 2008 format, and Magmortar Level X is one of those. And essentially, a lot of the time, the deck has a relatively easy time dealing with Claydol, so a lot of the time you are going to be hitting threats your opponent has on the bench. Maybe that's like a Curlia, they haven't quite evolved yet. Maybe that's picking off a Piplup on the bench. Just usually you use it to deal with threats, and then you rely more on the Bronzong to deal with anything that's very power heavy. But the Flame Bluster is not an attack you're going to be using every single turn. But it is, once again, another go-to option where your main strategy is you're just going to go Fireball Bazooka every single turn. But your opponent knows that you have the ability to hit for big damage with that Flame Blast. They know you have the ability to hit something on the bench with that Flame Bluster. And just knowing you have all of these different options, it really affects how they have to play things. Now, you've got a couple of different ways to do this. You can either go very aggressive with the deck, but in a lot of situations, what you want to try to do is if you have an opponent that's really trying to trade with you, you want to try to stay down on prizes, use that Fireball Bazooka, let them knock out the first Magmortar, send up the second Magmortar, just attach a Scramble energy on that, and then just keep doing that 40, 20, 20, and then at the end, you're going to start closing the game off with Bronzong or maybe a final Magmortar. It's not uncommon at all for the deck to take 2 or even 3 prizes in a single turn. I've taken 4+ on a single turn if I've really set things up well. But essentially, the game will usually stay close, and then you'll just come through at the end and just steal a bunch of prizes. Deck does play 2/2 Claydol. I shouldn't say steal prizes, I should say take prizes that you've set up. Deck plays 2/2 Claydol. I've played the deck with Claydol. I've played the deck without Claydol. I think Claydol is slightly better, but I didn't really hate the deck without Claydol either. I've just found in 2008 that a lot of decks will prey on Claydol, and it turns into some very easy prizes for decks. So against a deck like Gardevoir, for example, it might be shut off a majority of the game. If you're playing against Bronzong, for example, or some other Bronzong deck, it's probably going to be a free prize at some point. If you're playing against Empoleon, probably going to be a free prize at some point. So it's not perfect, and I'm not saying I think the deck is perfectly fine playing without it, but I have liked the deck slightly more playing with it. If I was not going to play the Claydol line, I would bump up the supporter count and then probably play like a 1/1 Cresselia in the deck. I think the deck has a lot of synergy with Cresselia. And I should note, I also have tried a 1/1 Claydol. That played fine too. I do like the 2/2 just slightly more. 2/2 Bronzong. I'll say at times this does feel a little bit light. And I played with a 3/3. 3/3 felt a little bit heavy, so I went with a 2/2. But essentially, Bronzong is just a great attacker that takes no energy. There's a lot of synergy there with that Pain Amplifier and Magmortar's Fireball Bazooka. And in a lot of situations, what you're going to do is you're going to send up Bronzong, use that Pain Amplifier, take advantage of that Cursed Alloy while you're building up a Magmortar on the bench. And just being able to have something that puts a lot of pressure on your opponent without actually investing energy in it is super strong. One copy of Chatot. I feel like you got to play one copy of Chatot in about any deck in this format. One copy of Pachirisu. Once again, I think one copy of Pachirisu is solid in most decks in the format. Just with so many tools flying around, just having that smash short it's such a strong deterrent for your opponent, because if they have an Absol with a Cessation Crystal, you go smash short, they really don't want to attach a second Cessation Crystal to it because they know you're just going to smash short it again. It's also really nice to get chip damage in against something like a Blissey deck, for example. One Rotom. I haven't found Rotom to be super useful, but it's a nice safety net in the deck where if you have fallen behind, you need to take that turn. You basically trade the prize for the 2 basic energies. It can be situationally very useful, and it can save you if you're in a tough spot. One Unknown Q. I love Unknown Q. I think a lot of decks in the format should be playing at least one Unknown Q. But essentially, if you don't get that desired starter, it gives the Baltoy and the Bronzong a free retreat. So essentially, if you open with one of those two, you can Roseanne's for like a Chatot Unknown Q and then get back to it. Also can be useful with Rotom, or if you open with Magmar, you need that free retreat in there. Or not free retreat, but to lower that retreat cost to 1. Just gives you a lot of options for that single spot. It's very strong. 4 Celios Network, 4 Roseanne's Research. I've gone back and forth on maxing Celios versus maxing BBs. I think when I first did 2008, I said I thought maxing BBs was slightly better just for the synergy with Claydol. I'm gonna say I've slightly changed on that, and I find maxing Celios is slightly better than maxing BBs, but we're talking, it's like a 55-45, and it could go either way. I don't think there's really a right call or wrong call. If a deck plays EXs, I think you're probably better off going the other direction, but I can see arguments for both. And I could probably give a 5 or 10 minute explanation on that, but maybe in another video if people really wanted to see it. 4 Roseanne's Research. So strong to search out those early basics, grab your basic energies. 4 Steven's Advice. People just fill their benches so heavily in this format, especially when they know you're not playing Dusknoir. You're usually going to get pretty strong draws off of that. 2 Copycats. Once again, you're taking advantage of your opponent's Steven's Advice. So if they Claydol to 6 and then they Stevens to draw, let's say 4, 5, 6 cards, then next turn, you can copycat that 10 card hand, get a brand new hand, and get rolling. 1 BB Search. 1 Wager. The deck doesn't rely on Wager, but I have found that it is able to knock out Claydol relatively easily between the Fireball Bazookas and then the Cursed Alloy and the Pain Amplifier. So having that hand disruption in the mid to late game, it can shift a game from a loss into a win if you're able to win a wager and lock your opponent out of the game or end up in a better spot because of that. I think hand disruption cards like Wager that aren't a hard lock like Admin, for example, are only really good in decks that you can control Claydol. And since this is a deck that can control Claydol, I think Wager is a solid play. 2 Night Maintenance. This is to help with not only the smaller Bronzong line, also it can help us cycle that Magmortar line, and absolutely we want to make sure we're cycling that Magmortar level X. I've also found that usually on that second night minutes, I'm making sure to put back some basic energy because I'll be running low at that point too. 2 warp point, just a lot of synergy in there to make sure that we're getting the damage on the board correctly. Also helps us get the Bronzong in and out of the active spot with both the Bronzong and the Magmortar having such high retreat costs. 2 windstorms. Got to deal with the stadiums. It helps deal with Cessation Crystal, and Crystal Beach can also be an issue for that deck. We want to make sure we got access to those, to our special energy cards. 1 Premier Ball. Really want to cycle that Magmortar level X. Not only is the power amazing, that extra 20 HP can be really strong as well. So anytime we have a Magmortar in play, we want to make sure that we do have access to a level X for it. 2 Moonlight Stadium. Once again, that's to bounce the Crystal Beach, and then also to give that Bronzong pretty free entry in and out of the active spot. One of the things that I really do like is if I'm playing against a deck that doesn't play stadium cards, or if I'm able to lock a Moonlight in play, if they take a knockout on something, like let's say knockout a Magmortar, I got Moonlight in play, I can just promote the Bronzong, get that cursed alloy off, and then free retreat it back into, let's say, the next Magmortar I'm going to bring up. So essentially you can get some good chip damage in there with that as well. Energy lineup, 7 fire. I know that seems a little bit low, but I think I started... The original list, I think, played like 12 fire, 4 scramble. I didn't play call or double rainbow, and then I slowly started fitting some of the other energies in. And I'll say 7 fire plays fine. Will run a little low. Usually I have to throw 1 or 2 back in with the night maintenance, but start of the game runs absolutely fine. 4 call energy, since our main attack is Fireball Bazooka, and we do have 2 colorless energy requirements on that. Call energy fits really well in the deck. Just puts a little bit more emphasis on the Fireball Bazooka, a little less on the Flame Blast. Really make sure that we are getting that Claydol out, and then we have early access to our basics. 3 Scramble Energies. When ideal, we do want to fall behind in prizes. Use that Scramble Energy to take advantage of it. And then 2 Double Rainbow Energies. I found when I was playing the deck that I wanted to be able to use Bronzong's coding in situations, and there's a lot of times where I can throw like a call under a Bronzong and then threaten the coding with that double rainbow energy. So I do like the 2 double rainbow energies. It's also very useful with that flame bluster attack, where if I have 2 fire energies on Magmortar, I can then attach a double rainbow and smack something on the bench for 90. Usually that difference between 90 and 100 is pretty minimal. 90 is still enough to hit most stage 1s. It's still enough to hit Claydol. It's enough to hit most of the things that I've softened up, but only time it's ever been an issue is if I need to like knock out a Skeptile in the Torterra matchup. Then you do end up 10 shy on that, but you'll just have to plan ahead if you're in that situation. But that's going to go ahead and wrap up the Magmortar Bronzong deck. This is a rogue deck for the 2008 format that I'm incredibly proud of. It's a lot of fun to play, and it matches up really well against a lot of the decks in the format. Even a deck like Empoleon that you would think would be an auto loss, I found the matchup to be incredibly close. I've had a couple of really good series of games with Chuck playing his Empoleon deck. So all in all, really fun deck. If you're looking for something new to try in the 2008 format, I highly recommend it. I absolutely love this variation, and I do think it's much stronger than the Leafeon Magmortar version of the deck. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.